Let me tell you a story about the moment my life changed forever. It didn't take years. It didn't take luck. It didn't take a business plan. It took a declaration, just one. Yes, I became a multi-billionaire the very moment I spoke it into existence. Not when I opened a business. Not when I signed a deal. Not when the money hit my bank account. The moment I spoke the words, I am a multi-billionaire, something shifted. Not in my bank account, not in my business, but in my consciousness. That moment wasn't about fantasy or delusion, it was about alignment. I wasn't lying to myself. I was speaking into reality the deeper truth that already existed within me. The power of that single spoken declaration altered the course of my life, because in that instant, I activated a universal law that governs all creation, the law of the spoken word. Words are not just sound, they are energy. They are commands sent out into the quantum field, shaping the structure of your reality. Every time you speak, you are either programming your life toward greatness or sabotaging it with limitation. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Your word is your wand. What you speak into the world is what you ultimately create." The problem is most people speak from a place of fear, doubt, and lack. They say things like, "I can't afford that," or "That's impossible," or "People like me never become rich." And without realizing it, their words become a prophecy, a self-fulfilling limitation encoded into their experience. I had to unlearn that. I had to deprogram the language of fear and start using the language of power. When I said, I am a multi-billionaire, it wasn't about vanity or ego, it was about creation. I was giving the universe a clear instruction. I wasn't asking for permission. I was declaring truth, because in the spiritual realm, there is no time, no delay, just vibration. And once your words match the vibration of what you desire, manifestation becomes inevitable. That declaration didn't bring the billions instantly, but it changed something far more important. It changed me. It shifted how I saw myself. I started walking differently. I carried myself with more confidence. I stopped doubting my ideas. I treated my time, my choices, and my conversations with the precision of someone who knows they're playing at a billionaire level. And the world adjusted accordingly. The spoken word has a creative force. The Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word," not the money, not the plan, not the evidence, the Word. That's the pattern. Everything you see, touch, and experience began first as a spoken or thought word. Words are the starting point of creation. If you truly understood that your life is shaped by the phrases you speak daily, about your money, your worth, your future, you would never again speak carelessly. When I said those 7 words, I am a multi-billionaire, right now, I was aligning myself with divine truth. I was speaking from the end, not about the end. There's a difference. Most people talk about what they want. I want to be rich. I hope it happens someday. That's not creation. That's hesitation. When you talk from the end, you speak as the person who already possesses it. You collapse time. You merge with the future you desire and pull it into the now. And here's the paradox: the moment you speak it with faith, the results don't need to be there for you to know it's real. It becomes real the moment you declare it with conviction. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Speak the word and then do not worry about how it will be accomplished." This means your job is to declare the outcome, the what. The universe will take care of the oh. But it requires boldness. It requires speaking the language of abundance, even when your outer world hasn't caught up. When I made that declaration, I still had bills. I still had debts. I still didn't know how it was going to happen. But I refused to speak the language of fear any longer. I decided my words would no longer reflect my current situation. They would reflect my chosen reality. Every word you say is a seed. You can either plant seeds of wealth, power, and faith, or seeds of doubt, lack, and limitation. The universe is always listening. It responds not to your wishes, but to your declarations. You don't get what you want. You get what you speak with belief. So I kept saying it. I am a multi-billionaire. Wealth flows to me with ease. I am a magnet for divine prosperity. Not once, not twice, but every single day, out loud with emotion, as if it were already done. I said it when I woke up. I said it before meetings. I said it when I felt discouraged. Not because I was faking it, but because I was activating the truth, and slowly, then suddenly, things began to shift. New connections came into my life. Old limitations started to fall away. Money began flowing from unexpected sources. But most importantly, I was no longer chasing wealth. I was embodying it. And that's the difference that changes everything. The declaration wasn't magic, it was alignment. It was the spiritual law in motion. And now, every time I speak, I do it with awareness. Because I know my words are not just noise. They are commands. They're creative instructions. They are the invisible architects of my future. The same power is available to you, right now, not tomorrow, not when the conditions are perfect. But now, speak what you want into being. Say it boldly. Repeat it daily. Feel it deeply. Let your words become the foundation of your wealth. Speak not as the person you are, but as the person you know you are becoming. Because the moment you say it, and truly believe it, is the moment everything begins to change. Your words are your power. Use them wisely. Speak them faithfully. And you'll watch your entire reality rise to match your declaration. Everything changed for me the moment I understood that success wasn't something I had to chase, strive for, or wait to experience. It was something I had to feel as already done. I became a multi-billionaire the instant I made the inner shift from wanting it to assuming it. The wealth didn't begin in my wallet. It began in my imagination, my emotions, my spirit. Before it could manifest physically, I had to assume the feeling of already having it. Most people live backwards. They wait for the outer world to give them permission to feel happy, abundant, powerful. They say, when I get the money, I'll feel successful. When my business grows, I'll feel like a boss. When I'm financially free, then I'll believe in myself. But that's not how reality works. The outer world is simply a mirror, a reflection of your inner world. If you're waiting for the external to shift before you feel different internally, you'll be stuck in a cycle of waiting forever. The key is to feel the wish fulfilled now. Florence Scovel Shinn, Neville Goddard, and other spiritual masters have echoed this truth across generations. What you feel as real becomes your reality. Your emotions are the vibrational signature of your beliefs. So when you feel like a billionaire, even when the world shows you otherwise, you activate the frequency of that reality, and it begins to move toward you. When I started speaking, I am a multi-billionaire, I didn't just say it, I felt it. I walked like it. I breathed like it. I made decisions from that place. I no longer saw myself as someone who might become wealthy. I saw myself as someone who already was, and the world was just catching up to it. I didn't need external validation. I needed internal embodiment. The truth is, your subconscious mind does not know the difference between a truth and a lie. It simply believes whatever is repeatedly impressed upon it with emotion. When you consistently feel the reality of wealth, your subconscious accepts that as truth and begins to filter your thoughts, actions, and circumstances to align with it. That's why affirmations alone are not enough. You can say, I am rich, 100 times, but if you feel poor, doubtful, or fearful inside, those feelings override your words. So I practiced the feeling. I imagined what it would be like to open my bank account and see billions. I imagined walking into rooms and being respected for the value I bring. I visualized traveling first class, giving generously, investing boldly. But I didn't wait for these things to happen. I allowed myself to feel them now. And the more I practiced this emotional state, the more normal it felt. What once seemed far-fetched became familiar. And once it became familiar, it became inevitable. The greatest shifts in life don't begin with action. They begin with state. Your emotional state determines your decisions, your confidence, your energy. When you assume the feeling of being wealthy, you stop shrinking. You stop playing small. You start expecting better, asking for more, showing up with authority. You start behaving like the future version of yourself, now. This change in identity is subtle but powerful. You no longer hustle from desperation. You create from inspiration. You no longer beg for opportunity. You attract it. Because you've already made the inner leap. You've already become the person who has it. That's what makes the feeling of the wish fulfilled so transformative. It bypasses time. It puts you in resonance with the outcome, which pulls the necessary people, events, and resources toward you. I didn't become a billionaire when the numbers showed it. I became one when my inner state became aligned with that truth. The rest was just the unfolding of what I had already accepted. This principle applies to more than just money. It's how you heal your body, find love, build a business, write a book. You must first live it in your imagination. You must feel what it feels like to already have what you desire. That's not fantasy. That's spiritual law. The more you rehearse the emotion of success, the more natural it becomes, and the faster it shows up in your life. Every great achievement begins with an inner agreement. It's not about forcing things to happen. It's about aligning with what's already yours in spirit. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you stop asking if it will happen, and start knowing when it happens, it's already done. You begin to trust divine timing. You move with confidence, because your faith is no longer shaky, it's embodied. That's when reality bends. That's when synchronicities appear. That's when unexpected checks arrive, chance meetings occur, and doors open seemingly out of nowhere. But it's not out of nowhere. It's from the frequency you've been living in, emotionally and energetically. When I said, I am a multi-billionaire, I wasn't asking the universe. I was telling it. I was making a claim. I wasn't depending on hope. I was standing in knowing. And that knowing came from feeling it first. That is the gateway to every breakthrough you desire. So if you want to create wealth, or anything, start by going within. Close your eyes. Visualize your ideal life in vivid detail. But more than that, feel it. Let your body, your breath, your heart vibrate with the emotion of already being that person. Do it again and again, until the feeling becomes your new normal, until doubt dissolves and certainty takes its place. The outer world may resist at first. It may challenge your belief. It may present you with tests, but hold the feeling. Protect it. Nurture it. Because once the subconscious accepts it as truth, the world cannot help but reflect it back to you. I didn't wait for my circumstances to change to feel wealthy. I felt wealthy, and my circumstances changed. That's the power of assuming the wish fulfilled. That's how I became a billionaire, long before the money ever arrived. The day I declared, I am a multi-billionaire. I didn't do it from a place of desperation. I didn't speak it because I was frustrated or tired of being broke. I spoke it because I finally understood something that most people spend a lifetime missing. The universe does not respond to your desire. It responds to your identity. Most people go through life hoping for change, begging for breakthroughs, asking for signs. They say things like, I want to be wealthy. I need a miracle. Or, if only I had a little more money. But what they don't realize is that this kind of energy is built on lack. It's built on the belief that they don't have, that they aren't enough, that abundance is somewhere far away, only accessible through struggle or luck. But the universe isn't moved by how badly you want something. It isn't persuaded by tears, pressure, or longing. It moves in direct response to the identity you claim and embody. The energy you give off is determined not by what you wish for, but by what you believe you are. When I began to shift my identity from someone who hoped for success to someone who already was successful, everything changed. The moment I started walking, talking, and making decisions as a billionaire, long before I had billions, things started lining up in my favor. It wasn't magic, it was alignment. Your identity is the vibration that speaks louder than any words. You can say affirmations all day long, but if your core identity is still rooted in scarcity, nothing will change. You can set goals, make vision boards, or hustle endlessly. But if you don't see yourself as someone who deserves abundance, you will constantly sabotage your results. I had to get honest with myself. I asked, who am I really showing up as every day? Was I showing up as someone who knows their worth? Or was I showing up as someone pretending, hoping life would give me a break? And the answer was hard to admit. I was operating from desperation, from fear, from the need to prove myself. That's when I made the decision. I stopped trying to be successful and started being successful. I stopped identifying as someone chasing wealth and started living as someone wealth naturally flows to. I stopped talking about what I wanted and started declaring who I am. This identity shift required consistency. I had to show up as that version of me in every area of life. I started asking, how would a multi-billionaire think? How would they invest their time? How would they speak in meetings, respond to problems, and lead others? What would they tolerate, and what would they walk away from without hesitation? And I started doing that. Now, not later. I began making choices aligned with that identity. I stopped engaging in small-minded conversations. I stopped entertaining lack-based thinking. I invested in myself, not as an expense, but as a statement of identity. I carried myself with authority, not arrogance. I listened to my intuition. I trusted my value. I stopped discounting my voice. I showed up like someone who belongs in billion-dollar rooms. The universe doesn't reward effort. It rewards alignment. And when you align your identity with the outcome you desire, it stops being a desire and starts becoming your default reality. Opportunities began to show up, not because I chased them, but because I became a vibrational match for them. People began to take me seriously, not because I demanded respect, but because I respected myself at a higher level. When you speak from desperation, your energy says, I don't have it. I need it. Please give it to me. That's not a powerful place to create from. It's a place of energetic imbalance. The universe sees that signal and says, okay, you're someone who doesn't have it. Let's send you more of that experience. But when you speak from identity, from certainty, your energy says, I am already that. This is who I am. And the universe mirrors it back with precision. This is why some people effortlessly attract opportunities, while others chase them for years. It's not luck. It's not even talent. It's identity. This is why people who win the lottery often lose it all within a few years. Their financial situation changed, but their identity did not. You cannot hold a billionaire's wealth with a broke person's mindset. You cannot keep success you are not internally aligned with. True wealth starts inside, and only expands outward when your consciousness can hold it. So I chose to be wealthy in my identity long before I had the material evidence. I didn't fake it. I became it. And that shift is what set everything else into motion. I stopped trying to become something and decided to be it now. That decision turned desperation into declaration. It transformed uncertainty into unshakable faith. I stopped asking life to change and started commanding life to reflect what I already am. So if you want your life to change, stop waiting. Stop begging. Stop hoping. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I being today? Because your results are not about what you're doing. They're about who you're being while you do it. You don't have to wait to feel successful. You don't have to wait to feel wealthy, powerful, bold, or capable. You can choose it now. You can claim it now. And once you do, everything around you will begin to reorganize itself to match the new version of you. The moment I said, I am a multi-billionaire, I wasn't speaking it into the future. I was speaking from identity. I wasn't pleading. I was declaring. I wasn't pretending. I was aligning. And the universe, faithful as always, responded in kind. Because it doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to identity. There are moments in life that don't just change your circumstances, they change your timeline. Moments so powerful that they collapse years of struggle into a single shift. That kind of moment happened to me the instant I made one bold declaration. I am a multi-billionaire. Not I hope to be one. Not maybe someday. Not if everything goes right. But I am, spoken with absolute certainty. And in that one moment, I stepped into a version of myself that already existed outside of time, waiting to be claimed. We often think that wealth takes decades, that we must work hard for many years, climb endless ladders, and hope the right doors open. But what if that timeline is a lie? What if the time it takes is simply the time you take to decide who you are? What if, instead of earning success over 20 years, you could access it now by collapsing the illusion of time through one undeniable declaration of identity? You see, time is not as fixed as we think. It bends to belief. It expands when we doubt, and it collapses when we decide. That's why some people struggle for years with no results, and others experience quantum leaps in a matter of weeks. The difference is not luck, it's alignment. It's the intensity of their decision and the clarity of their inner world. When I made that declaration, I wasn't forcing anything. I was collapsing the weight. I was saying, enough delay, enough pretending. I claim this reality now. And when you do that, life rearranges itself around your decision. Because boldness is magnetic, faith is a shortcut, and clarity cuts through resistance like a knife through fog. Before that moment, I was doing what most people do, trying, waiting, analyzing. I was treating success like a mountain I had to climb. But that declaration turned it into a door I could simply walk through. I understood that I wasn't chasing a result. I was stepping into a frequency. That's the secret most don't realize. There are infinite versions of you already existing in the quantum field. There's the version of you who keeps waiting. There's the version of you who gives up. And then there's the version of you who already has everything you desire. The money, the power, the peace, the legacy, and that version becomes accessible the moment you declare yourself as already being it. Not wishfully, not nervously, but boldly, like it's already done. That declaration is not just words, it's a portal. It opens a new timeline. The moment you say it, you're no longer walking the path of maybe, of someday, of if everything aligns. You're now walking the path of certainty, of now. And reality can't help but respond to that energy. Things began to change rapidly after that. People showed up that I hadn't reached out to in years, offering opportunities, collaborations, funding. Ideas flowed effortlessly. I stopped doubting myself. I made decisions without fear. But it wasn't because the world suddenly got easier. It was because I had stepped into a version of myself who no longer questioned his worth or his wealth. This isn't just spiritual theory, it's spiritual law. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that. A man's word is his wand. When you speak from truth, from boldness, from faith, your words create instantly in the invisible realm, and the visible must catch up. The bold declaration speeds up the process. It erases doubt. It clears resistance. It tells the universe, I'm not playing small anymore. Most people keep their declarations timid. They don't want to sound delusional. They're afraid of being wrong. But here's the truth. The more powerful your declaration, the faster your reality moves. Not because you're shouting louder, but because your belief is stronger. The energy behind your words is what makes them creative. The depth of your decision is what collapses time. I began living from the end. I stopped thinking like someone who was becoming wealthy and started thinking like someone who already was. I shifted from process mode to identity mode, and everything accelerated. If you want to speed things up in your life, if you're tired of the waiting game, then you must stop asking for permission and start claiming your power. You must speak what you want as if it's already done. Not because you're lying to yourself, but because you're stepping into alignment with the highest truth. Time is elastic. It can stretch, or it can snap into place instantly, and the tool that determines which it does is your decision, your voice, your certainty, your declaration. The moment you say, "I am wealthy, I am powerful, I am aligned with success," and truly mean it, you initiate a collapse of everything standing between you and that reality. The doubt begins to dissolve. The distractions fall away. The old story begins to crumble. And what's left is the clear path, the timeline of destiny unfolding without delay. You don't need more years. You need more clarity. You don't need more approval. You need more boldness. One decision, backed by belief, spoken with power, felt in your core, can bend reality in ways hard work never could. That's what happened to me. I didn't build my future step by step. I declared it. I didn't crawl toward it. I became it. And when I spoke it, it was as if all the doors that were once closed instantly began to swing open. Because I was no longer knocking, I was walking through. So I ask you, what are you waiting for? What timeline are you stuck on that you've been told must take years? What if it only takes one moment of truth, one sentence of certainty, to access everything you've ever wanted? The day I became a multi-billionaire wasn't the day I made the money. It was the day I decided I was already there. The day I dared to declare it. The day I stopped asking and started being. And the universe, it responded like it always does. To boldness, not hesitation. To clarity, not confusion. To identity, not desperation. Collapse your timeline, make the declaration, and watch the impossible become inevitable. There is a moment in every person's journey when they must cross an invisible line. The line between wishing and believing, between hoping and knowing. That line is called faith. And it was the very bridge that carried me from the realm of limitation to the reality of limitless wealth. I didn't become a multi-billionaire because I had all the answers or resources. I became one because I walked confidently across that bridge, knowing that what I had declared was already mine in the unseen. Faith made it real long before my bank account did. Faith is not a religious concept, it's a spiritual law. It's the inner knowing that what you speak, think, and feel with conviction is already established in a realm beyond what your eyes can see. It's the invisible thread that connects your internal declaration to external manifestation. When I said, "I am a multi-billionaire," it was not a lie. It was a truth my physical world hadn't caught up with yet. And I didn't wait for the world to confirm it. I trusted that my word was enough. That's where most people struggle. They say affirmations, they make declarations, but they don't truly believe them. They speak the words, but in the back of their mind is doubt, fear, and hesitation. That doubt becomes the blockage. That fear becomes the wall, because without faith, the words are just noise. But when backed by true belief, unshakable, embodied belief, they become commands. They become bridges. When I declared my wealth, nothing around me confirmed it. I had bills due. I had people who doubted me. I had situations that screamed the opposite of abundance. But I held the vision. I kept the faith. Because I understood this principle. Faith is seeing with the inner eye what the outer eye cannot yet perceive. And I walked through life from that inner knowing. I remember standing in front of a mirror, repeating the words, "I am wealthy beyond measure." Not just repeating them, but feeling them. Not just saying them, but living in them. It wasn't about convincing the world. It was about aligning myself with truth. A truth that didn't need validation to exist. A truth that was already real in the spiritual realm. And my job was simply to believe long enough for the visible to catch up to the invisible. Faith is not passive. It's not about sitting and waiting for miracles to fall into your lap. It's about acting in full confidence, even when you can't see the result yet. It's about making moves as if what you desire is already done. When I had faith in my declaration, I started moving differently. I made decisions from a place of abundance, not fear. I spoke with clarity, not confusion. I stopped entertaining doubt and started entertaining possibilities. The people around me noticed the shift, even if they couldn't understand it. I no longer played small. I no longer compromised. I carried myself like someone who already had what they wanted. And slowly, then suddenly, things began to move. Connections aligned, ideas flowed, doors opened. But none of that would have happened if I hadn't believed before I saw. That's the key: belief before evidence. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Faith knows it has already received and acts accordingly." That's not just a poetic phrase, it's a divine instruction. When you live as if it's already yours, the universe aligns the conditions to reflect that truth. The action must come from a place of certainty, not trial. You don't test faith, you embody it. There were moments when my old patterns tried to come back. Moments of doubt whispered, "Who are you to say this?" Moments when the bank account showed lack and the world said, "Not yet." But every time I returned to my faith, I reminded myself, if I said it and believed it, it is already done. The how is not my responsibility. My job is to hold the energy, to walk the bridge. People often ask me, "What did you do to become a billionaire?" And I tell them, I believed before there was proof. I stayed faithful to my inner truth while the outer world looked the opposite. That's what most won't do. They want to believe once the money shows up, once the success is confirmed, once the path is clear. But that's not faith, that's evidence. And evidence comes after the belief, not before. I treated my declaration like law. I didn't wait to see it in my reality. I acted like it was already done. That's when magic happened. That's when reality started to bend. Because once faith becomes your foundation, you don't walk into your future hoping. It becomes inevitable. You expect it. You trust it. You move through setbacks with resilience. You treat delays as divine redirection, not denial. You stop asking if it will happen and start preparing for when it does. Faith is not just belief. It's alignment with a higher truth. It's knowing that everything you need is already within you, and that the universe is conspiring on your behalf. It's refusing to speak against your vision, even when reality tempts you to doubt. It's choosing to speak, act, and live in complete alignment with your desired outcome. And that's what I did. That's how I crossed the invisible bridge. That's how I turned my words into wealth. Not by working harder than everyone else, but by believing deeper. By holding the vision so strongly that the universe had no choice but to match it. So if you're standing at the edge of your dream, wondering how to get there, stop asking how. Start believing that you're already there. Speak it, feel it, move like it. That faith becomes the bridge. That belief becomes the blueprint. That trust becomes the force that moves mountains. The day I became a multi-billionaire was not the day the money arrived. It was the day I believed with such certainty that the invisible became more real than the visible. It was the day I walked across the bridge of faith and never looked back. The most powerful shift in my life didn't happen overnight. It happened through repetition. Not the kind of repetition where you're just going through the motions, but the kind where you're training your mind like an athlete trains their body. The truth is, your subconscious mind is the operating system behind every choice, action, and result in your life. And if you want to change your reality permanently, you don't need to change your surroundings first. You need to change your programming. That programming is shaped by repetition. When I first said, "I am a multi-billionaire," it didn't feel entirely real. It was powerful, yes. It stirred something deep inside me. But my old beliefs about money, worthiness, and limitation started pushing back. They whispered things like, "Who do you think you are? Be realistic. You're not there yet." And I realized in that moment, I wasn't fighting external obstacles. I was facing mental patterns I had repeated for years. So I made a decision. I would repeat my new truth, loudly, consistently, and with emotion, until my subconscious believed it. Because once the subconscious accepts something as real, your entire life starts to rearrange to match that belief. It no longer becomes an effort to be wealthy or successful. It becomes natural. I began saying it every day. I am a multi-billionaire. Money flows to me effortlessly. I am aligned with infinite abundance. Not just once in the morning, but throughout the day. In the shower, while driving, before meetings, before bed. And not like a robot repeating empty words. I said it with feeling. I brought emotion into it, because emotion is the glue that sticks belief to the subconscious. I imagined the feeling of already having it. I visualized the lifestyle. I saw the impact. I felt the gratitude in advance. At first, it felt like planting seeds in rocky soil. But I kept watering those seeds with every repetition. And then something shifted. I started believing it. Not just in my mind, but in my identity. The resistance faded. The doubts got quieter. The affirmations stopped feeling like wishful thinking and started feeling like truth. And that's when the outer world began to reflect the inner world. I wasn't just repeating words. I was reprogramming a lifetime of limitation. I was dissolving stories I had inherited, adopted, or absorbed from culture, family, and society. Stories that said, money is hard to get. Only certain people become wealthy. Or, you have to struggle for years to be successful. Those stories had been drilled into my subconscious through years of repetition. So the only way to overwrite them was through new repetition, chosen by me, driven by vision. Florence Scovel Shinn often said, man's only enemy is within himself, and I finally understood that. My enemy wasn't the economy, or my background, or my current circumstances. My enemy was the repeated thought patterns that said I couldn't have more, be more, or become more. But repetition works both ways. It can be your downfall or your transformation. The choice is yours. I chose to use repetition as a weapon of creation. I wrote my declarations down daily. I said them out loud. I recorded them in my own voice and listened to them on repeat. I placed sticky notes on my bathroom mirror, car dashboard, and desk. Every corner of my life became a reminder of who I really was. Not who I had been, not who people thought I was, but who I had decided to become. And that decision, backed by consistent repetition, became a new identity. An identity my subconscious accepted, and once it was accepted, everything changed. I started taking bigger risks, not recklessly, but confidently. I started investing in myself at a higher level. I attracted people, deals, and ideas that aligned with my new self-image. You see, you don't rise to the level of your ambition. You rise to the level of your identity. And your identity is built on the thoughts and phrases you hear and feel most often. Repetition carves new grooves in your mind. It creates default thinking. It determines what feels normal, what feels possible, and what feels out of reach. So if you repeat, I'm not good with money, or I can't afford that, enough times, that becomes your reality. But if you flip the script and start saying, money comes easily, I always attract wealth, or I am financially unstoppable, and do it with persistence and belief, you will feel your reality begin to bend. Repetition also trains your nervous system. At first, saying, I am a billionaire, might trigger discomfort. Your body might reject it because it doesn't match your past. But over time, repetition normalizes it. It reconditions your entire being to feel calm, grounded, and certain at that level of success. What once felt like a stretch becomes your new baseline. It's not magic, it's science, it's spirituality, it's psychology, and it works. That's why your daily declarations matter. Your words aren't just sounds. They are instructions to your subconscious. They are building blocks of your self-image. They are the seeds of your future. So I kept repeating, I am already successful. I am already wealthy. I am already there. And eventually, my actions aligned. My confidence grew. My opportunities multiplied. The money followed. Not because I chased it, but because I became the person who attracts it with ease. And it all started with one bold declaration, repeated until it rewired my mind, shaped my belief, and reshaped my destiny. If there's one truth I've learned, it's this: you don't speak it once. You speak it until it becomes you. You don't declare it casually. You declare it consistently. You don't whisper your future. You proclaim it loudly and often. Because repetition is not routine, it's transformation. And your future is listening. Everything changed for me the moment I stopped speaking like the person I was and began speaking like the person I was becoming. That's the real shift. That's the hidden key most people miss. When they declare success, they say the words, but keep the mindset, posture, and language of their old self. But to truly transform your reality, you must speak from the identity of the version of you who already has it. The highest version, the one that already exists in the realm of possibility, waiting to be expressed through you. When I first said, I am a multi-billionaire, I wasn't just trying to speak wealth into existence. I was stepping into a new frequency of being. I imagined how that version of me thought, walked, spoke, moved, and made decisions. I realized that every word carries energy, and every time I spoke from the mindset of lack, fear, or not yet, I was anchoring myself to the reality I wanted to leave behind. But when I chose to speak like the future version of me, who had already made it, I started collapsing the gap between desire and reality. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that your word is your wand. That means you don't just use words to describe your life. You use them to create your life. And the words you choose must reflect the you who has already arrived. So I stopped saying things like, I'm trying to become successful, or I hope things turn around. I started saying, success flows through me. Everything I touch multiplies. Wealth is who I am. Because when your words come from your highest self, your world starts shifting to match that vibration. People often wait for the external results before they change their language. They think, once I get the money, I'll feel rich, or once I become successful, I'll speak with confidence. But that's backwards. The universe doesn't respond to delay, it responds to identity. When you speak as your future self now, you align your thoughts, emotions, and energy with the timeline where that version of you already exists. It's not pretending. It's choosing who you are becoming and speaking from that place, as if it's already done. And here's the secret. Your subconscious can't tell the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you speak as if you're already living your dream life, you activate the emotional state, the neural pathways, and the internal chemistry of success. You begin to feel different, and that feeling changes your behavior. You take bolder actions. You walk into rooms with more certainty. You make decisions from abundance, not desperation. You become magnetic to the things your highest self attracts effortlessly. I began every day by asking myself, what would the multi-billionaire version of me do today? How would he speak to others? How would he speak to himself? What kinds of words would never come out of his mouth? What affirmations would he declare without doubt? And from there, I created a new internal dialogue that matched that identity. I said things like, opportunities chase me. Money is my natural state. I lead industries. I don't follow them. The world benefits from my wealth. I'm here to impact, to elevate, and to multiply. At first, those words felt aspirational, but repetition and emotional engagement made them familiar. Soon, they weren't affirmations, They were descriptions. Descriptions of who I already was inside. I wasn't reaching for success anymore. I was living in it. Most people wait for permission to speak boldly. They wait until their reality improves before upgrading their vocabulary. But greatness doesn't wait for permission. You have to speak as the king or queen before the crown touches your head. You have to speak as the visionary before the vision is seen by others. Because it's in speaking from the highest version of yourself that the path to that version unfolds. This mindset doesn't mean ignoring your current reality. It means overriding it. It means choosing which voice you let dominate your experience, the voice of your past or the voice of your purpose. And let me be clear, your past has a loud voice. It will remind you of your failures, your disappointments, your doubts. But your highest self has a voice too. And when you speak from that place, you create a new script, a new timeline, a new version of you that no longer waits for success, but walks in it. You don't have to know how it's all going to happen. You just need to declare that it already is. That declaration is what opens doors, shifts conversations, and creates momentum. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's not fantasy. It's faith in motion. Speaking from your highest self is how you tap into the creative power of your mind, body, and spirit all working together to fulfill your destiny. Eventually, people around you will feel the shift. They'll notice that you speak with more authority, that you expect good things, that you radiate certainty, and you'll start to realize this version of you was always there. You didn't become it, you revealed it, through your words, through your declarations, through the decision to speak, think, and act like the most abundant version of you long before anyone else could see it. And that's how I became a multi-billionaire, not through waiting, hoping, or wishing, but through declaring and embodying the version of me that was already whole, already successful, and already wealthy. The moment I spoke like that person, the universe rearranged to match it. So speak like the you who already made it, because that version of you is real, and your voice is the key that unlocks the door.